Now, people always ask me, Z, are you shy or just quiet on purpose? Or they'll say something like, how can someone be so calm and still feel so powerful? And, well, honestly, that question used to confuse me as well because I'm not shy, but I'm also not loud. I'm basically in the middle, like I'm aligned. I've learned to master both silence and expression. I'm what's called an aligned ambivert, a balance between introversion and extroversion, built by intention, not by accident, by the way. And my past with Buddhism, that only deepened the inner world. It trained me to pause, to observe, to understand before I speak. That's what gives me control, and that's what gives me presence. Today, I'm going to talk to you through this concept, what it means, why it matters, and how you can build this superpower yourself. Because, it is a superpower. Okay, first, we need to break the myth. You are not either an introvert or an extrovert. That's kind of like outdated thinking. It's a spectrum, like a range. On one side, you have introverts who are like deep thinkers, observant people who recharge in solitude. On the other side, you've got extroverts, like they're high energy, they're social, they're verbal, and outward facing. But a lot of us, we fall somewhere in between. That's where the idea of an ambivert comes in. Someone who can adapt, someone who can go quiet or go social, depending on the situation. But I want to go deeper because being an ambivert by default is one thing. Being an aligned ambivert, that's when you've studied both sides of your personality and trained them like if it was a muscle. You don't just switch between introvert and extrovert energy, you control it. And well, that's power. I've always been naturally introverted. As a kid, I always kept to myself. As an adult, I value myself in silence and I crave peace. But life had different plans. When I got into fitness, into podcasting, into creating life coaching, doing seminars, I realized something. The world doesn't reward silence unless you learn how to use it. I needed to step up and speak, to lead. I needed to be heard. That didn't come naturally, though. I had to train it. So I studied communication. I practiced public speaking. I pushed myself into social spaces that drained me. And all of that just to grow. Over time, I realized something very powerful. I didn't have to lose my introverted self to lead like an extrovert. I could blend both. That's whenever I became an aligned ambivert. Someone who command a room and then recharge in silence afterwards. Someone who could speak and still protect their peace. So, let me break down why becoming an aligned ambivert is a game changer. Reason number one, you listen deep, but speak strong. Most people either talk too much or not at all. Aligned ambiverts know when to be silent and when to make every single word count. Reason number two, you are adaptable in any environment, whether it's a small group, big stage, one on one. You show up with the right energy because you know how to shift gears fluidly. Reason number three, you respond, you don't react. So, introverted roots help you reflect. That reflection gives you control, so you're not impulsive. You're always intentional. Okay? Reason number four, you lead without needing the spotlight. You don't chase attention, but when you speak, people listen. That's a quiet kind of leadership, and it's very rare. And then, reason number five, you protect your energy. This is where the Buddhist mindset comes in again. You understand the balance, when to give, when to retreat and recharge. Because that awareness, it keeps you from burnout. You're not just social or isolated, you're strategic. And that makes you more powerful than either extreme. Now, here's the part that a lot of people skip. How to actually build this. I'm going to give you a breakdown of 5 steps to becoming aligned, okay? Step number 1 would be know your base. Are you naturally more introverted or extroverted? And then accept it. Don't fight it. Start from knowing yourself. And then step number 2, train your weak side. Kind of obvious, right? If you're introverted, then practice speaking. If you're extroverted, train silence and presence. The side you neglect is the one that limits your growth. Step number 3, create strong boundaries. Don't try to be everything all at the same time. Learn to shift modes with purpose. If you're around people, give your all. Then retreat, recharge without any guilt. Step number 4 is track your energy. What drains you, what fuels you, and be honest. Learn your rhythm. Buddhist practice helped me out here so much because it's all about awareness. And then step number 5, use your alignments as tool. You don't have to label yourself. You just need to use your traits with intention. If you want to lead, well then speak. You want to create, isolate. But if you want to evolve, then train both. So let me wrap it up. You don't need to choose between being loud or quiet. You can do both if you're aligned. You can be deep and driven, calm and commanding, private and powerful. You can be an aligned ambivert if you're willing to train both sides of who you are. And if all of this spoke to you, then share it. Tag someone who needs to hear it. Because the more we understand ourselves, the more we show the real us to the people that are around us. And I'll leave you with this. Stop playing with your health. It's not a game. It's your life.